All right.
Okay, let's do this. Hello everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to a new term, and, welcome back to a world that feels different. I imagine many of you did what I did over the holidays. You switched off a bit, or at least tried to. You stepped away and then you came back, opened the news and thought, oh, right, here we go again. This is the world we're in. Geopolitical tensions escalating. The attack in Venezuela only last week? Or was it a targeted military operation? Renewed talk about Greenland, security, NATO, energy routes. Borders and alliances suddenly feeling a lot less stable than they did not very long ago. Ideologies collapsing, and alongside that a lot of language about necessity, inevitability, sacrifice. There is no alternative. And I want to start the unit right there, with what I hope was no more than a nudge. Not to analyse those events directly, but to ask a more basic question. When moments like this happen, how do we make sense of them? What tools do we actually have? Because, as it turns out, most of the time, it's not like it's information we're lacking, right? We're drowning in it. What we often lack are ways of thinking about what we're seeing. And that's really where contemporary sociological theory comes in. Not as a crystal ball. I wish I could say there was a way to anticipate all this. Not as a set of ready-made answers. I've absolutely no idea what is going on. But as a way of asking better questions about the present, the so what. Questions like, why do some developments feel shocking while others feel strangely unsurprising? Why do certain explanations feel immediately plausible, whereas others are a bit more, And why do some others, again, barely register as thinkable at all? If you look ahead at the structure of this unit, you'll see that these questions are not accidental. Marxist theory asks us to think about capitalism, crisis, ideology, and power. Structuralist approaches ask how meaning itself is organised. Foucault asks how power works when it doesn't look like domination. Bourdieu asks how inequality becomes embodied and reproduced. Feminist and post-colonial theory ask whose experiences and knowledges were marginalised from the start. Who was missing from the party, and who was never invited to start with? So when we ask whether contemporary sociological theory helps us understand the world we've returned to after the holidays, the honest answer is, it depends on how willing we are to let theory unsettle what feels obvious. That's the essence of this unit. Right, and after such an uplifting disclaimer, let's move to the here and now. And we'll be working together this term for the next 10, 12 weeks or so. We'll be spending quite a bit of time together this term, so hopefully we will get to know each other a bit more by the end of it. But till then, let me briefly introduce myself. I'm George. My research sits at the intersection of political sociology and social theory. I'm interested in how power operates in everyday life, not only through institutions or laws, but primarily through everyday practices, consumption, identity, and most of all political imagination. The things people do that don't always feel political, but very much are, and also the opposite. All these acts of so-called political engagement, buying fair trade lattes, dubbing political graffiti, acts which may or may not be understood as political, and which may or may not be genuflecting to an underlying hegemonic ideology. More specifically, a lot of my work looks at neoliberalism, political consumerism, and young people. How people come to experience social arrangements as natural, inevitable, or even comforting, and how that shapes agency, resistance, and political engagement. That's why many of the thinkers we'll encounter in this unit are the ones I try to employ in my work. Marx, Althusser, Bourdieu, Foucault, feminist and post-colonial theorists. So I'm not presenting these ideas as something distant or finished. These are the guys, yes, mostly guys, more about this later, I struggle with too. So yeah, if anything, we are together in this, in terms of how we'll work together. This is a postgraduate unit with a relatively small group and a lot of different backgrounds in the room. Different countries, different disciplines. For many of us, English is not our first language. Let us try to work with that, not around it. I see this as an asset, our capital, especially for the seminars. different perspectives, standpoints, backgrounds, upbringings. Please do not suppress these. We need all these if we're to make our seminar discussions meaningful. The lectures are there to introduce ideas, contexts, and stakes. The seminars are where we slow things down, where we clarify, apply, argue, ask whether a theory actually helps us see something new or whether it creates new blind spots. You don't need to arrive with fully formed positions. You do need to arrive having engaged with the readings. And on that note, a quick but important practical point. The Tallis reading list is central to this unit. It's not background material, it's the core. If at any point you're unsure about expectations, readings, or assessments, Blackboard is your reference point. Everything is there. So, that's the context. That's the tone. That's us in the room. In the second part of today's session, I would like us to invest some time to get to know each other more. I am particularly interested in your fears, contributions, expectations from this unit. I need this info, as it will very much inform the tone and pacing of the delivery, and to a lesser degree its content. I know that we may have worked together with some of you last term. If so, I would like to hear what has worked well last term, or what we could potentially improve. But also, this is also where sharing openly about our own individual concerns for what is ahead, we can often see that at the very least, if anything, we're not on our own, Okay, I am digressing. Again, I will be doing quite a lot of that, you'll see. More about this all in the second part of the session. Till then, keep that in mind. What are my fears from the unit? What are my expectations out of it? What do I want to gain? And importantly, how can I contribute to the class? What can I bring to the table? What I'd like to do now is move from this broad framing to the actual structure of the unit, the theories we'll be working through, and why they appear in the order they do. So let's turn to the slides and start properly.